Welcome, everybody. I'm Belinda Macauley. I'm the Executive Director of BHBA. We are so happy to have everybody here today for BHBA 101. The idea for today is to just kind of give you a sense of how BHBA works, how to get the most out of your membership. We're going to introduce you to the structure of how our sections and committees work, give you some anecdotes about how people originally got involved with BHBA and what they're doing now. And we wanted to use this meeting setup so that you can easily answer questions, give us some feedback about your experience so far with BHBA, anything we can do to help. We're going to leave plenty of time for questions, and we want to encourage you to ask them as we go along. So feel free to drop them into the chat if you have them. And if you, at the end, we'll just call on people as well if you want to raise your hand. So we want this to be a conversation. We want to make sure that you walk away with all of your questions answered. So thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it. I'm going to give you a quick intro of who's going to be speaking today. First, we have our president, Adam Siegler, is here. He is our current bar year president. He is a litigator at Greenberg Traurig. He is just a fantastic leader of our bar, and we look forward. He's got some really great stories about how he got involved with BHBA and what made him decide to get involved with leadership. So we look forward to hearing from him. We also have Tony Storm. Tony's a member of our Board of Governors. He is a former chair of our family law section. He also used to be in our office suite at BHBA, so we all know him very well. And he's actually going to MC for us today, so we are really looking forward to that. Be prepared for some 80s and 90s references. I always am, and I'll translate if you're too young to get them. And then Kendra Thomas is with us. Kendra is, among many other things, is our Inclusion Committee Chair. She is also our upcoming, next year, she will be co-chair of the Family Law section. She's fantastic and has a lot of information to share about BHBA and the different ways that you can get involved. She's involved in many bar associations and is a wealth of knowledge. So we look forward to hearing from her. And Nadira, Imam, is just a BHBA all-star. Nadira is a past president, the immediate past president of our Barristers section, which is for our newer lawyers. And even before she was president, was an absolute superstar. She's done every public service project that BHBA and our foundation are involved with. In many cases, she's run them. She is now our secretary treasurer. So she's on the leadership ladder, our executive committee of our BHBA Board of Governors. We are very happy to have her here today. And she's in particular going to share about the Barristers and how you can get involved there. So I think that is our lineup. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. No. So Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you. Nobody wants to hear me talk.
I always like hearing you talk, Belinda. And thank you everybody for being here, all the participants and our presenters. I feel lucky to be here. I mean, I'm surrounded by, we have Kendra, Belinda, Nadira, and Adam here who are all extremely active in the Bar Association, have all made this an integral part of our careers, and seeing what connections we can use from this Bar Association to make us grow as lawyers, as people, and really, as human beings. I mean, there's a lot of humanity in this bar, especially now during this pandemic. While most of you are at the beginning stages of your career, the Beverly Hills Bar Association, I think, is uniquely postured to give you the tools that you need to help you network. For those of you that don't know what your career goals are, figure those out, find mentorships, and find the right opportunities to match them. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and what happened when I moved to LA with a family and a little daughter and no job, and didn't know anybody or what I was going to do. I was a clerk for the U.S. Attorney before I moved here, and I enjoyed it. I was lucky enough to have some trial experience as a young lawyer, and lucky enough to learn the rules of evidence, because for those of you who have been around long enough know that those rules of evidence are hard to learn in a classroom. And they're the toolbox that you need to really learn how to run a courtroom effectively. So I moved down here. I had a friend who had been a longtime member of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, and he dragged me to the nuts and bolts. So for me, membership back then, I think was about $500. And I thought, oh God, how am I going to afford this and everything else? And he's like, just do it. I'm telling you, this is the right move. So I went to this nuts and bolts, started meeting other practitioners in different fields. One of the presenters at the time was Emily Edelman, who was a well-known family law attorney, which I practice family law. And she was teaching this nuts and bolts with Judge Amy Pellman. So after the CLE, I went up to both of them and I talked to them and told them about my background and chatted. And, we just basically kibitzed for like 15 minutes. And Judge Pellman said, send me your resume. And I asked Emily if I could shadow her in court and see, because federal court and state court are very different, and see what a day in family law was like. And she was gracious enough, as a lot of bar association leaders would be, to say, sure. So I spent the day watching her. We went down to the Santa Monica courthouse and I watched her in a hearing with Judge Cowan. Emily probably doesn't even remember this. This was so many years ago, but it's always been meaningful to me that I had somebody who's a member of the Bar Association take time out of their life and let me sit and watch and let me read the pleadings and see what happens day to day in court. So this led to me ending up working with Judge Pellman as, I don't know what you'd call it, because I wasn't in law school. I was an attorney. I guess you'd call it an externship. But I went down there and I clerked for her, or I don't know if it's a clerkship. It's whatever you want to call it. I worked in her I helped her review cases, and I learned and I met people. And everybody I met at the Bar Association created a network for me. I can't tell you the support I had from the community here. It has grown my personal network. Like Belinda said, it became my offices. It was my home away from home. I created a network of friends who always helped me. We refer each other. We ask each other questions when we have an issue that comes up in a case, and we're unsure of something. We have a confidential group. I could call Kendra and say, hey, Kendra, is this complete BS? What do you think about this? And we can have a confidential conversation, and it's great. So whether it's about your own personal development, about firm development, about business development, all the options are here. When I started my practice, you better believe I had friends that I had met through the Beverly Hills Bar Association that I asked, hey, I'm starting a practice. When you start a law firm, it's not like being a lawyer. You're starting a business. What does a partnership agreement look like? How do I structure this? Who do I call for insurance? Frankly, you call Genna and say, Genna, who do you recommend? Or Belinda, because they have all the connections and know who to go to. Or Adam. I don't mean to, or Dira. Anybody on this call knows where to go. So there's great tools that I've used, and you can make it what you want it. Here's a reference, Belinda. The Beverly Hills Bar Association is everywhere you want to be, like Visa. Or you could say it's like Amex. Membership has its privileges, but it truly, really is. We now have a trial advocacy program. I mentioned the rules of evidence a few minutes ago. There's no better way to learn the rules of evidence than to be put on the spot and figure out if something is hearsay or if there's an exception or not. Because until you're actually sitting there reading about it in a book it's very difficult. And when you're on the spot, you need to know it. So when we graduate from law school, we don't have that trial experience. I was fortunate and lucky that I had some experience at the U.S. Attorney's Office, but those were federal rules, not state rules, and it was very different. What I guess I'm supposed to talk about, I've gotten a little bit off script, I think, is how I got started here, which I think I did, why I'm still here, and that I think is pretty obvious, because these people are my family. I spend every day I was sitting in the Bar Association talking with the staff, talking with other tenants and going to every possible CLE, because that's how we meet our peers and that's how we develop our network and that's how we build our brand. So it's how I helped grow my practice. It's how I helped get referrals. It's how I refer other people. I'm sure you'll hear similar things from Kendra and Nadira. They're both, and Adam, they're all amazing attorneys. I've had 10 years ago, I think Kendra and I had a case together. Terrific, very good attorney, very knowledgeable. There's probably nobody more active that I can think of right now than Nadira. When I look at Nadira, I think, wow, is that what I was like 10 years ago? Or, I don't know. She probably surpasses me. And I know she has such a great future ahead of her. What I'm curious of, before I turn this over to some of the other presenters, and feel free to put this in the chat, is what are your interests? What are your backgrounds? I want to be able to answer questions that you might have, Kendra as well, and Nadira as well, all of us here. And part of that is knowing what your goals are, what you want to get out of this. Because I got to tell you, Beverly Hills Bar Association for me was the start for me, my move to LA. It was the seed that my friend dragged me to and planted and has grown into what is now, I think I have a pretty decent practice, and I think I'm okay. And I love being involved. So, Belinda, I'm going to turn it back to you to let me know, or let us know where you want this to go next.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much, Tony. Tony mentioned the nuts and bolts CLE that he attended. We have a new series. Barristers is going to sponsor a new nuts and bolts series coming up in the next few months. So the nuts and bolts series is divided by practice areas. So there'll be a nuts and bolts of real estate, nuts and bolts of family law, nuts and bolts of trust and estate. If you're trying to figure out where to land, or if you want to learn, the basics of a new practice area, this is a great introduction. And it's also just good, if you're getting started and you're trying to figure out where to refer cases, just how to issue spot what people are looking for. These will be great sessions. So keep your eyes peeled on your email. I know we never email you, so you'll just never see an email from us in your inbox, but keep your eyes peeled for one specifically about the nuts and bolts series, and then we'll be announcing the individual pieces as well. Tony, you covered a ton of bases, and I think one of the things also that you've been helpful with as people have come into the Bar Association, that I think Nadira will talk about as part of Barristers, is mentorship. Pairing people up so that we've got, the more experienced lawyers, experience. That's the term I like to use, 20 plus years out. It's experienced, not old or in need of these glasses to be able to see my computer screen, but very experienced. The experienced lawyers partnering with, some of the lawyers who are freshly out of school. So I don't know, Tony, maybe Nadira would be a good person to talk now about the barristers?
Sure. I'll just add to that. I remember when I started, we had a series, and I'm sure we can do this again, where we had lunch with, I think it was called Lunch with the Legends or something like that. So you'd schedule a lunch with people who were notable names, household attorney names, and there'd be maybe like 8 attorneys, 8 young lawyers in the room, and we'd sit and we'd have lunch with them, and we could ask them about their career path and what they were willing to do. I'm sure there's other opportunities. I'm going to hand that over to Nadira, because that is really her world. So as head of the Barristers, take it away, Nadira.
Thank you, Tony. It's nice to see you, by the way. And we don't get to see each other very often now. We used to see each other maybe once or twice a week being across the street, but it's different. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Barristers because it's a part of me now. I first got involved with the Beverly Hills Bar Association because my boss, Lawrence Jacobson, who is a past president, he was actually starting his year as secretary, and he kept encouraging me to get involved with the Barristers, and I was a little bit intimidated at first. I was in my first year of law school and just, thinking that I wasn't ready to be with all of these attorney people with all of this experience, and I'm just in school. But I ended up planning an event with one of the barrister leadership. She was secretary at the time. Her name was Sarah Talley. And Sarah and I planned this event. It went really well. And at the event, she kept encouraging me to get involved. She's like, you should get involved with the barristers. You would really like the people there. They plan these events. They're a lot of fun. Everybody is really welcoming and inviting. So just, come to a meeting sometime. So I ended up going to a board meeting, and I was so surprised at how much I was welcomed. Like, people made a point of welcoming me and talking to me and asking me how I heard about the meeting, how, what stage I was in my studies and how things were going with school. And every time I went to a meeting, I met more people. I got closer to the people that I actually had met the first meeting, and I started getting involved with more projects and started planning events. And then I started getting involved with putting on MCLE programs and getting experience with presenting programs. And, now I've been a speaker at programs. And so it has progressed me throughout law school. And then also now, as I come to this point where I'm secretary of the association. And I feel that I've learned so much from being involved. I've also made such great friends from my involvement with the Beverly Hills Bar Barristers. We volunteered together. We feed the homeless at San Michelle Shelter. We do the Roxbury Park Legal Clinic. We have social events like our Hollywood Bowl event, which has always been really fun. And it's great to get together again with this group of people that comes back over years and years. After they've been in practice for 10 years, they'll still attend barrister events. And there are so many well-experienced attorneys that come to our events and meet the new attorneys and the students that are up and coming. I met Chief Justice Ronald George at one of the events that he spoke to me for a while. It was, to me, something that would never happen in my lifetime. It's something so unexpected to me. And so I encourage you, if you are just starting out, if you're a law student, membership for you is free if you're within your first 3 years. So if you're a law student, you're studying for the bar, if you are just starting out in your career, this is the perfect place for you. The other barrister friends that I have, they're the reason that I was nominated as super lawyer. My barrister friends, when I finished law school, some of them gave me books to study for the bar because with my work, it was difficult to attend a 3-month bar review. So some of them just gave me books. And then they also, when I became admitted, they told me how to negotiate a raise with my boss so that I could continue as an associate where I'm working. They even, they asked me, what are your plans? What do you want to do? Do you want to stay with your boss? We can see if we have other, places in our firms available to you. So these relationships that I made went far beyond networking and far beyond just attending events. So like I said, I encourage you to get involved, to, attend our events when we start opening up and we start having events. Come and meet us. Come to our meetings now virtually and start to get to know who the barristers are, who the board members are, and the people that will end up helping you meet people that you want to know throughout your career. The requirements for the barristers are that you are within 8 years of practice and 38 or under. So if you're 8 years or less in practice and 38 and under, you're a member of the barristers automatically with the Beverly Hills Bar Association. If you are not eligible as a barrister, we still welcome you to come to our meetings and get involved and plan events with us and attend events. We want to know you too. And a lot of times we will plan with those people to actually be the speakers at our programs. So that's an opportunity for you to actually present your law practice and what you do to somebody that you can mentor. And so I guess, I don't know, are there any questions from Belinda or Tony or Adam or Kendra? Is there anything I'm missing that you wanted me to point out?
Well, I think there's a few folks on this call that I'm looking at that, I don't want to make guesses, but they may not be recent law school graduates. And they may wonder, hey, I've been an attorney for 20 years. I just joined the Bar Association. What's here for me? And it's all the same stuff. It's all the same opportunities that we've discussed. You can always grow your network. you can always learn about the areas of law. There's an infinite almost amount of CLE and library. We have, and Belinda can probably talk more about the network that we have. It's not a listserv anymore because we're now far more technologically advanced, but there's such a wide array of attorneys and practice areas that are in the Bar Association and peers where you can ask questions to as a member, and it's extremely valuable. I know some of the questions I have today, being years into my practice, are similar to the ones that I've had when I started, because we're always learning new things. And this is a place that's comfortable where I can ask questions no matter where you are in the stage of your career. Maybe somebody has been practicing in one area and is saying, I've had enough of this area and I want to learn about another one. It's all here. There's a network of people, professionals who can help you, and willing people who are always available to be a mentor, to guide, and answer questions and steer you in the direction that you want to be. I'm saying that because I recognize that there may be people on this call that have graduated law school, not recently, and are still saying, hey, what does the Beverly Hills Bar have for me? There's frankly a lot. And if you have any specific questions, at the end of this, I'll give you my email address, or you can put them in the chat. I'm happy to talk to each and every one of you personally. Kendra, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you are absolutely spot on. With respect to there's a lot for everybody. For me, my value with BHBA is definitely the involvement in the sections and the committees. The committee work has been amazing. How I came to BHBA is I changed my area of law. So I was going to be in civil litigation. It was going to be great. Well, then I decided I wanted to go to family law. Well, there is so much education out there for family law that I didn't know what I didn't know. But I ended up taking a course called the Three Amigos, ironically, which was one of the pillars of the family law section's education. And it's one of those educations where they give you a significant amount of information. Everything you need for the year is kind of packed in this course. And at that point in time, it was pre-COVID, many moons ago. I won't date myself, but many moons ago. And I remember sitting at a table thinking, am I qualified to be in this room? It was some really impressive people who were speaking. The program was put on by judges at that point in time. But what really stuck with me was the information was being given to me in a way that was really manageable. But not only was it being given to me in a manageable way, the people at my table were also really open to discussion and were really nice. And the niceness of the BHBA just kind of stuck with me. And I think it's ultimately what grabbed me and drew me in. It's one of the reasons that I am a co-chair on the inclusion committee, as it were, which welcomes just very diverse thought, very diverse people, and really embraces the differences we have. I think one of the difficulties that I had starting out was, what do I do with how I'm being seen, how I'm being perceived, how do I feel included, especially when the geography is so diverse in Los Angeles. And BHBA does an amazing job of providing a place for everyone to kind of feel included, regardless of their background. And I'm really proud to be part of that. So I would invite you all to really take a look at maybe joining me for a committee meeting, or maybe you have some ideas. We've put on programming with respect to the latest program was, celebrating some of the cultural aspects of the Lunar New Year. There was an educational component. There was fun. We had trivia. There was a magician. The more programs that I'm involved in like that, it's showing me that the camaraderie of BHBA is also a place not only to really get down to business and learn law, but where we can also celebrate friends. The programming is there's a lot of it, and it's very on point. I think during COVID, there is no other bar association that's put on so many programs. In fact, I learned from the emails that I was getting, those emails that Belinda referenced that are going to pop into your inbox. Some of the programming that's out there, you don't even realize you need. I've been running a firm for 15 years, yet I'll weekly get an email saying, hey, here's an hour on making your firm more efficient, running your firm, starting your firm. It takes nothing for me to have that on in the background while I'm, even multitasking, while I'm even working, to realize that there are people who really care about the success of my business, who really care about educating me, not just as an attorney, but also as an individual, to make my experience as a lawyer more holistic. And really, it shows concern for me. The reason that that's important to me is because I don't think there are too many bar associations that are so accessible. I mean, for example, Adam, as our president, is been at almost every meeting that I've been a part of, which is really, really impressive. Belinda and Genna are also very, very involved. And to new people coming in, why that's amazing is if you have a question in your legal experience, you have access to them to get your question answered. Never have I had a question for Belinda or Genna that they haven't been able to tell me where to go. And especially in terms of just really getting involved, there's something for everybody. So for me, the human aspect is super important. The feeling included portion is really important. I can get that, but I also have the ability to excel in my career, in that when I wanted exposure to the family law section, not only did they recognize, hey, we're going to educate you, but I was also embraced by the community to say, hey, here is a network for you. And if you have interest in serving at a higher level, we're going to provide that experience for you also. So I really urge you that if there's a practice area you're interested in, get involved, go to a meeting, talk to the people who are running the meeting, because I think you'll find that they are very open to sharing ideas and thoughts with you. And even if you say, hey, I want more involvement or I want less involvement, I find that this is a bar that's really willing to cultivate an experience based on whatever it is that you want. So thank you for providing just an amazing opportunity for me, but also thank you, BHBA, for giving me a network. I love the fact that, yes, Tony, you and I met 10 years ago. I'm not going to tell you how much before that I was in practice, because again, a woman never reveals her age. But I absolutely love the fact that I don't think after meeting Tony, there wasn't a day that if I had a question, I couldn't pick up the phone and call him. By being involved, you are really cultivating those types of connections, and you're increasing your network, not just in your practice area, not just as an attorney, but I find it to be staffed and stacked with quality people. So holistically, I think the BHBA can actually make you a better person and advocate. So thank you for listening to me. At this point, I will turn the mic back to Tony.
Kendra, that was amazing. I really couldn't have said it any better myself. Camaraderie is what it's all about. And I think you summed it up really well. Sometimes you have a question for somebody and they can tell you where to go. I can tell you sometimes I've asked Genna a question and he's told me where I can go. Sorry, Genna. But no, in reality, I jest. The system, the structure at the BHBA, the infrastructure is fantastic. And it is what you make of it. It gives you all the tools that you need to do what you want. It's the raw materials that you can take if you want to. If you take advantage of it, it's there. Like I offered earlier, if somebody has questions about family law or looking for a mentor, or I want to be a lawyer, but I don't know what kind, I'm available. I'll talk to any and each and one of you. I'm happy to spend the time. And I'm not alone here. I had that opportunity when I was a young lawyer. And I think there's a pay it forward attitude in this bar association that's really, I think they're humble, and we're here talking about it because they don't brag about themselves, but they truly are everywhere. And, in every aspect of the law, they have one of the largest family law sections, I'm guessing, in the state. I don't know that. I think that's correct. And same with entertainment law. We have great programs. We have programs like Meet the Judges Night. We have programs. I got the opportunity to work on the Supreme Court's. This was last year. I can't think of the name, Belinda. But when they give out the scholarships for youngest attorneys.
Supreme Court Scholarship Luncheon. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And that's coming up again. It's just a great group of people. The facilities are wonderful. The camaraderie is, as Kendra put it, is second to none. I mean, the group, and the CLE is second to none. Whatever you want to learn, there's a CLE about it. And now that everything is via Zoom, it's accessible. I'm sure we're developing quite a large library of pre-recorded CLE that people can go back and watch when they want to. Everybody has a journey and a different story that they've had coming into the Beverly Hills Bar Association. In a minute, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. I want to leave some time at the end for questions. Adam has been our fearless leader. He's the president, and I want to make sure he has the opportunity to address everybody. And I do also want to leave time at the end of this for questions. And part of those questions is I want to know who you are, and what you're looking for, so I can answer them less generally and more specifically. Adam, I'm handing the mic.
Thank you very much, Tony. You notice, everybody, how subtly and gently he reminded me not to run on, so that we leave some time for questions from all of you. And I will heed that. Obviously, Tony, Dira, and Kendra are terrific examples of leadership in the bar, of the benefits of the bar, and the opportunities that the bar presents. And I wanted to share a story with you, and I'm speaking now primarily to the younger lawyers, but also, as you'll see in a way, I speak to the older lawyers, because I once was you. I was starting out in the beginning of my career, and there was tremendous uncertainty, as there always is, about where you're going and how it's going to go for you. And I've had a number of different opportunities over the years, but actually very recently, when I was older, I found myself unemployed. I was mobilized to go to Iraq in 2008, 2009, and I had to give up my practice. And so when I did that, and I came back, I came back into the worst recession we've had since the 1930s. And I had no clients, no office, no money, really nothing. And Mark Steinberg, who was the executive director at the time in the position that Belinda now fills, he called me and he said, how are you doing? He checked up on me. I was just coming off of active duty. And he exercised his own power and discretion and waived the year's dues for me so I could get involved with Beverly Hills Bar. And I found that I really connected with everybody very rapidly. And I had tremendous opportunities, and I quickly got onto the section leadership in the entertainment section. And from there, the board of governors, and from there, the ladder all the way up to the president. So since I got back from Iraq, I've gone from being unemployed to being president of Beverly Hills Bar, and I have a good job. And I now refer business to many other people. So for me, the real benefit of this bar association is colleagues. It's having those colleagues that I can talk to, that I can network with, and in turn, that I can help in my own way. And the other word I would use is staff. We have a wonderful staff, the best people in the world. They make these programs look seamless, but I can tell you there's a lot of hard work and paddling going on while they're doing that. And I want to give you some very specific things about what I think you can get out of this association. Take a look at the website. There's tremendous amount of material and connections there about events and people that you want to connect with. Talk to the staff and the bar leaders, including me. My number and my email are readily available, and I respond to everybody as best I can. Get involved in the sections and committees, and particularly, and this is really helpful for young lawyers, get on a panel. Don't be shy. You're all graduates. You know how to do this. get on a panel and learn a new topic and speak on it, or moderate a panel and be a leader in that. And you'll find that by doing that, you suddenly realize, hey, I'm just as smart as all these older people on the program. I can do this, and you will do it. Finally, the thing I would say is get involved in leadership, just as I did, because being a leader means that you have to work a little bit harder to learn what your role is and what resources are available. But you find that you also use those resources, and finally you find that you help other people. My primary role and position, as I view it, is supporting all of you. For me, the position of president of the Bar Association is a service job. And that means I work for you. I work for the members, and I work for the sections and committees who do the work. So anything that I can do to support you, whether it's creating a new committee, supporting a new program, introducing you to somebody, or referring you work, I'm happy to do it. So Belinda will make my information available, but I'm happy to hear from each and every one of you. I really think that the younger lawyers clearly are the future of our bar, but I also say to the older lawyers like me who are starting over later on, it's absolutely possible to go from being an unemployed, recently discharged veteran to being the president of this wonderful bar association. Anybody can do it. There's probably somebody on this call right now who will be the president one day. And I hope you look back and remember, I can do this. You'll realize this was the moment that you realized you can do it, and you will do it. So with that, let me turn it back to Tony and our wonderful team.
Thank you, Adam. And I have no doubt when you were in the military, you got who ordered the code red. If you were a JAG officer, I don't know what your position was, but I have little doubt that you were as good an attorney then as you are now. And it's just a change of practice. So thank you, Adam, and thank you to all of our presenters. Our goal in this was to leave some time for questions, and at the end, maybe circle back and talk about our sections. So to the extent people have questions, please put them in the chat. And if you have one specific that you want Kendra to answer, or Adam to answer, or Nadira, or me, Belinda, whoever, let us know. And we're all here. So we're here to answer those questions. So I'm going to we'll have this moment of silence so you can ask your questions.
I can't stand silence, Tony. Somebody messaged me a question, and it's a really good point, because it's a question about what's the distinction between sections and committees, executive committees, et cetera. And I am relatively new to BHBA. I've been here less than a year, and I was new to bar world, to all of the nomenclature of bar associations. So it can be confusing. Our sections are basically, they track practice areas. So they're substantive areas of law: family law, trusts and estates, entertainment, cannabis, our newest section, family formation law, real estate, tax, all of those. And that's not a complete list, by the way. If I ever have to do the full list by memory, if my job's on the line, I'm going to be in trouble. But we have a couple dozen sections. And then committees. Committees are not substantive areas of laws, but things like our inclusion committee that Kendra co-chairs. We have an empowering women committee. We have a work-life balance committee. We have all kinds of, kind of cross areas, broader topics. And the nice thing is the sections and committees all work together. So, our inclusion committee has co-sponsored something recently with our criminal law section. The verbiage can get a little confusing, but there's a ton of variety. And people who are barristers that Nadira was talking about, and Nadira, maybe you can talk to how the barristers leadership helps with this. If you're a barrister, you should feel free to get active in other sections, and the barristers leadership can actually help you do that.
So yeah, what we've done normally in meetings with newer visitors that come to a meeting, and we find out what their practice area is, if there's something that they want to get into, and then we'll introduce you to the people that we know through the Bar Association and other leadership that actually can help you get there, or maybe suggest a section that you can get involved with that might be in that area so that you can learn more about it. We also know about the programs that are happening, usually with the webinars and things like that, where you can get information and resources on different practice areas. So yes, we welcome you to come and join us. Our meetings are less like meetings and more like brainstorming. And so, and it's a lot of social, like a lot of us attend because we can see each other once a month. So feel free to attend a meeting, and we will help you from there. We'll be happy to take you by the hand.
So I'm getting a number of questions in. Thank you, Dara. And I want to make sure we can answer them all. The first one is from somebody who's not in Los Angeles, who asked, do you think it's beneficial to still get involved in BHBA committees and groups, even if we do not live in Beverly Hills right now? She attends law school in San Diego, but wants to practice sports and entertainment law after graduation. I will start with, and I think I mentioned, our entertainment group is, I think, the biggest in the country. So wherever you are geographically, especially now, we're able to network with people remotely. Dira, you can talk a little bit about the barrister opportunities. I know you already have, but 100%. And there's no reason not to, especially as a law student. It's free. The opportunity is there for you. There's so much continuing legal education. You will come off in your job interview so much more well-read if you have experienced the legal issues in sports and entertainment law after attending a few CLEs, which you can do as a law student and your membership. And it's all really interesting. And not only is the subject matter interesting, we keep hitting on the fact it's the networking. I mean, bluntly, I didn't take the nuts and bolts class when I moved to LA to learn about law. I took it so I could meet colleagues in different fields. And it was, I went to the barristers meetings. I was everywhere because I knew I had to put food on the plate and I had to get a job. And I developed a network very, very quickly and a foundation of people I could rely on that I can ask questions to, that I didn't have to be embarrassed about asking. Because sometimes we have questions we think, I don't want to ask because maybe I feel it's a dumb question and I should know the answer. It's not a dumb question, because if you're wondering, I can guarantee there are others that are wondering. But to your point, if you want to get involved in a particular area, whether it's entertainment, family law, probate, this bar association has the network that's going to help you develop those relationships and the coursework that's going to help you, for lack of a better word, respond intelligently and know issues before they come up that you can talk about in a job interview. I'm sure there are people around who will even help you with the job interview. I have done it personally for other new members, and I'm sure there are others here. Dira or Kendra or Adam, did you have anything to add to that?
I would like to add that it is worthwhile to get involved whether or not you're geographically in the area. I personally have met lifelong friends with this association, and I know that throughout my career, they're going to be there. We refer each other work, and even though they're no longer barristers, we're still in touch with each other. If I have a question, I can pick up the phone and talk to the partner, and there's no problem there. I haven't had anybody decline my call. And that's an amazing thing. I mean, Adam, Mr. Siegler, our president, thank you for your service, by the way. I really appreciate you so much. You have been so supportive of the barristers, and I really appreciate being able to have access to you and to be able to talk to you if I ever have a question. You're a great person, and there are several of people in this association that are great people and willing to help. So thank you.
And I just want to point out that this works both ways. I actually call on Dira's firm for expertise that I need. So we're all colleagues together. This is not a top-down organization at all. Colleagues is a group of equals, and that's what we all are, regardless of whether we've been practicing a year or 20 years. So thank you, Dira, for being there for me. I always appreciate the expertise that I get from your firm.
Thank you,
and
Adam.
Tony, Oh, sorry. Just on the geography point, we have BHBA is interesting. And some of it has to do with our history, which there's a little trivia piece to how we were formed that we can talk about if we have a minute. But our geography is definitely not limited to Beverly Hills. You don't have to live or work in or near Beverly Hills. Traditionally, most of our membership has been on the west side of LA, but we have members all over the state. I know for a fact that we have some members in San Diego because we just did a member survey, and a couple of attorneys who practice in San Diego indicated that they're members of the BHBA. So we have members throughout the state. We also have a lot of international members. We have an international committee, which is not necessarily people who practice international law. It's people who, there are people who do that, but also lawyers who are foreign licensed and practice also in California or in the US. And so we have lawyers all over the world. So definitely don't feel geographically limited. And to the extent that that was a hesitation 14 months ago, Zoom has really changed almost everything about that. And so many of our sections have said that their meetings, many of them are going to continue to be via Zoom. And so, even if you can't attend in-person programs, I would definitely encourage you to stay involved, particularly if you're talking about wanting to work in industries, the heart of which are really here in LA.
I know that in terms of my committee, there are a lot of people geographically who I don't know where my committee members are. I just know that everything is occurring via Zoom and people can just jump in and there can still be very meaningful discussion. But when I'm attending programs, very interestingly, COVID kind of dispersed us all to different places. What I find is that what's really interesting is sometimes you'll get someone in another country who's decided to jump onto our program and they will announce, I apologize if I look bed worn or what have you, it's actually 3 a.m. here and I'm in China or I'm in Italy. And what you may find is even in San Diego, if you throw out in the chat or you throw out that you're in a different geographical location, you may find that will spark somebody to engage with you, or it may be a conversation piece or a conversation starter. And it may be something that defines you or starts a relationship. I only bring this up because I see one of the questions is about the mentor-mentee relationship. And absolutely, again, I thank you for putting the registration information in the chat box. One thing I'd say is that some of my best mentor relationships came from a random fact that I shared with someone who held on to it 10 years later. Tony, I'm looking at you. But seriously, some of my best relationships started from a conversation where they didn't necessarily mean to be mentor-mentee relationships, and they were just interactions. And I think it's one of the reasons that I really enjoy this bar is because even if it's not intended to be a mentoring or mentee relationship, there are long-lasting relationships that occur. So hop on the Zoom wherever you are. I think you'll find that you will provide an asset to the discussion, regardless of where you reside geographically.
Agreed. The world is a smaller place now. I mean, geography is not limiting anybody anymore. There are local attorneys who are taking cases in jurisdictions they never would have taken before, in California, obviously, because they can appear remotely. I've had a lot of direct messages about mentorship, so thank you. As you said, as you referenced to Genna's link. So a lot of questions about mentorships and the trial advocacy program. So I'm going to hand that discussion over to Belinda because she is deeply involved in creating those programs, and there's probably nobody better who can speak to it. So if you don't mind, Belinda.
Sure, no problem. Well, I think Kendra's advice is so spot on. Some of the informal mentor-mentee relationships are probably some of the most fruitful. But that being said, please do check out the form that's in the chat, the Google form, if you want to be paired as either a mentor or a mentee, and then we'll line up interests and pair you. We also, if we don't have a mentor for what you're looking for, we'll reach out to our bar leaders in those sections and say, hey, somebody's looking for, a mentor on the following topic. topic, are you willing to participate? Like everybody said, the collegiality is the thing that stands out to me most about BHBA. And so I can't remember the last time I asked for volunteers for something and didn't get them. People are just really willing to step up, and particularly when it comes to mentor and mentee. A lot of lawyers, and I know I benefited from being mentored early in my career, and, we want to pay it forward. And most of our bar leaders feel that way. So as Adam has said, it's a two-way street. And so happy to take your input on those forms and then pair you up as best we can. We have some other programs coming up, including kind of a more intensive shadowing mentor program that will roll out. So keep your eye on your email for that. And then the trial advocacy program. So the trial ad program, and I'm going to just scroll on my phone here to the topics because the formal materials haven't come out yet, but this is going to be rolling out through June and July. There's going to be a fee for this series, but God, there's a lot packed into these 6 sessions. So we've partnered with a group called TACT that has experienced trainers, and they focus on sharpening trial ad skills. Whether you've never done a trial or you've done 20 and you want to focus just on certain aspects, you should be able to plug into either the entire series or the individual ones. So the topics are going to be become an evidence boss, evidence rules to master as a litigator, the ethics of online advocacy and tech tips for lawyers, objection fundamentals, and that one will have a workshop. So 3 of the 6 are going to have a workshop option that you can join after for small breakout rooms where you'll have access to just a few people and a trainer to do actual practicing. So in this case of, actually making an objection, defending your objection, and responding to opposing counsel on those. So that should be super useful. Opening statements will be another one. Direct examination of experts, that one will also have a workshop, and then a separate webinar on cross-exam of experts. So we are really looking forward to the series, and I think there's going to be a ton of value in it. As I said, it may be that, I was a DA for a few years out of law school, and the joke was that none of the DAs know how to cross-exam and that none of the PDs knew how to direct. And it's of course not true entirely, but it's what you get to do the most, right? Almost all the time, the DAs were doing direct. I tried about 30 jury trials, and my direct exam skills are better than my cross-exam ones by far. So, you can drop into different pieces that you need. And if you're just coming to California and you want, some state-specific information, then we have all of our CLEs to kind of supplement the trial ad skills. So this is really, get advice from people who have tried a ton of cases, who have trained a ton of people to try cases, and then the workshop piece. So we'll be announcing that over email in the coming. I'm looking at Genna in the chat. I think those emails are coming out in the next couple weeks, but we're excited about it. It should be useful. And then nuts and bolts that we talked about earlier, that's going to be free with your membership. So if you're a member of those nuts and bolts series, all of that will be included with your membership.
So there was another question, Belinda, and before we get to that, you'll appreciate this one little story. There's nothing that makes you realize what you don't know more than trying to talk about it and teach it. So I was volunteered to teach a trial course to 7th graders who are prosecuting and defending the characters from The Outsiders. So fun thing when you have to teach 7th graders that ask you questions that you think are obvious, but you go, and then you have to actually think about that. But anyways, people wanted to know if once this pandemic is done, these programs are still going to be available via Zoom.
Yes. So the answer is, well, first of all, obviously we hope that the pandemic abates very soon. But some of the things that Zoom has introduced have been really valuable. And so many of our sections have indicated that they're going to keep their CLE programming, their live CLE programming via Zoom, and then focus their in-person events on networking. So, networking happy hours, business development lunch hours, et cetera. I think that, we're really going to defer to the sections and committees because that's one of the hallmarks of BHBA. We have very strong sections and committees, and their leadership knows, their members best. So we have some sections who will do more in person and some who will do less. We at the bar level, at the staff level, are going to make sure there's options that are virtual and options that are in person. So among the things that will stay virtual is something we introduced during COVID, which is First Fridays. It's usually the first Friday of every month at 11:30 a.m. And it's just a drop-in networking hour. So you submit your elevator pitch when you register. We circulate a spreadsheet to everybody who attends with everybody's information. And then we drop you into little breakout rooms, 4 or 5 people. You get to give your pitch. We've gotten great feedback. I know for a fact that numerous people have gotten business as a result. And so that's been such a great, easy thing for people to drop in and do that's going to stay on Zoom. We have a network group called The Network that meets monthly, and they are specifically for the purpose of referring business to other practice areas. So you're a family law lawyer, where do you send your trust and estates business? You're in litigation, where do you send your business transactional work? So encourage you to get involved with The Network. They're going to be doing more in person, but I know they also plan to keep some things online. So for sure, everything is not going to be solely in person, but we know that people are clamoring for those in-person networking opportunities. And as soon as those are safe to bring to you, we will do that.
So we have a couple minutes left. I wanted to just ask some of the panelists. I'll start with Dira. We'll go Dira, Kendra, and we'll end with Adam, our fearless leader. Final thoughts for our audience. Dira?
I'll leave you with this. You can be involved as much or as little as you want with the Beverly Hills Bar Association and all of the colleagues that are available to you there. And so you can make of it what you would like. I encourage you to be as involved as you can, because it will take you places that you never thought you would go. And you will meet people that would not normally cross your path, that will become lifelong friends and people who influence your life and your career in very, very positive ways. So is what I would say for my final thought.
Thank you, Dira. Kendra, do you have any final words of wisdom for this audience?
I think that even if you don't know the level of involvement, just get involved. I think this is a very navigable organization, and it's very easy to feel what you want to become involved in. The more you get involved, the more you'll know what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And I think the more people you meet, the more people you're exposed to, the more you build your network. And the more you meet those organic mentors that become just an invaluable part of your experience. So get involved and then figure it out from there.
And Adam, some final words of wisdom.
Thank you very much. Let me start out by thanking our panelists. You've done a tremendous job in explaining to our members all the different opportunities and benefits that we have. I'm very grateful to the staff and leadership. Belinda and Jen have done a fantastic job. And certainly Dira, Kendra, and Tony are examples of the kind of leadership that gives me complete confidence that this organization is going to continue on and just get better and better and better. I want to extend also a special welcome to our newer members, recognizing that there are tremendous opportunities for you here. I'm actually a little jealous. So many of these wonderful things are now all available, and it's true, you can live in Missouri or England and still access these benefits, and you should do so. And finally, let me just say that I view everybody here and all of our members as friends and colleagues. So that means that you can contact me just as if I were your next door office mate, down the hall for anything. And all of the membership and leadership and staff feel the same way. You are our friends and colleagues. My goal here is to keep everything in this bar accessible, informal, collegial, and friendly, and finally, enjoyable. So with that, stay in good health, everybody. I'm looking forward to reopening in person very soon. We're certainly going to be leaders in that. I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you. And if there's anything that I can do to support you or introduce you or help you, I'm happy to do it. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to Belinda and Tony.
Belinda, I'm just going to end with, or I'll let you end with thanking everybody for attending. I'm going to let you close this one out. So go for it, Belinda.
I'll just thank everybody. Thanks everybody for coming. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. I dropped my email in the chat, but also a shortcut is ED for executive director, ed@bhba.org. I will always traffic cop and send you to the people who actually know what they're doing. So always feel free to reach out. Really, no question you can't ask us. We're always here to answer. And as you've seen, we have great people in our sections and committees who really want to be helpful and want to help you build your networks and make the most out of your practice. And so, let us help connect you. We'd be delighted to do it.